Manchester United is a football club surrounded by doom and gloom at the moment, and to tell the truth, I've had enough of it. I've had enough of talking about why certain structures don't work. I've had enough of talking about this player not fitting a certain system, etc, etc. I've had enough of all the negativity. So today is the start of a sort of new mini-series, basically, where we're going to take a look at how Erik ten Hag can fix different parts of the squad. And the way we're going to do this is by asking this man here, Erik ten Hag, to return to some of his former principles which we saw at Ajax. An Ajax side which we all fell in love with. A manager and an idea which we all fell in love with, and we were so excited about seeing at Manchester United. Now don't worry, I know that the boss himself has already said, Manchester United can't play the Ajax way. I understand that. But Erik ten Hag, what you can do is take principles from the Ajax side, adjust them to this Manchester United squad, even one decimated by injury, and actually play much better football. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to put a positive spin on things and look at how Erik ten Hag can fix this football club, starting off with the build-up structure from the back. So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, jerseyfifa.com. The home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFIFA for 10% off when you order. Now, as I've said already, I think the best thing for Erik ten Hag to do is return to his former principles, which we saw with Ajax. Now again, like Erik ten Hag has already pointed out, he doesn't really have the squad to do it properly. However, I still think it's important that we look at some of the things that he done at Ajax, and then look at how we can adjust it, manipulate it, to the current Manchester United squad. And like I said, I want to focus on the build-up play from the back. This season, Manchester United signed players like Andre Onana, someone who was meant to help us play the ball out from the back. We signed Lisandro Martinez last summer, someone who was meant to do something very, very similar. However, it simply hasn't happened at the club this season. But it did happen at Ajax. The question is, how did it happen at Ajax, and what was the structure which Erik ten Hag looked to use? Well, he would often shift to a back three in possession, and Lisandro Martinez played a very, very important role. When Ajax were playing the ball out from the back with Pazveer, we would often see Gravenberch push higher like this. Lisandro Martinez would move into a double pivot alongside Edson Alvarez, Jurrien Timber would come into the middle here, and the two fullbacks would drop a little bit deeper, creating a 3-2 shape to build the ball out from the back, with the goalkeeper having plenty of options on the ball. And the important thing here is that we have a double pivot. And the reason this is so important is because it literally doubles the passing angles we have available. When, for example, we play like this, with one pivot in the midfield, we can see that in terms of passing into the centre, we only really have one option, it's Edson Alvarez. And this is why Lisandro Martinez always pushed into this position, because now it means that when Timber or Pazveer or Mazraoui or Daley Blind have the ball at the back, there are more passing options available, more passing angles. We can see, literally, we've doubled the amount of passes that you can play in this area. And this was such an important thing for this Ajax side. But what was also important was that Lisandro Martinez didn't just move here in the first phase. He was then able to stay here for a bit longer at times. Or if it wasn't him staying here, he would drop deeper. Daley Blind, for example, would rotate into this position. Or perhaps Jurrien Timber would rotate in. Or perhaps Mazraoui would rotate into this position. Now, in my opinion, this is too much rotation. You don't need this much in the first phase. However, the important thing here is that Ajax always had some form of double pivot in the midfield. Literally, like I've said already, doubling the options at the back. We've got evidence of this here. This is Erik ten Hag's last season at Ajax against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. And what we can see in the initial build-up phase is that Lisandro Martinez has moved forward out of centre-back and into the midfield to play alongside Edson Alvarez, who we've got marked here. Now, the important thing though is that not only is Lisandro Martinez going to move into midfield, he's actually going to stay there. So let's see how this plays out. 3-2 shape. Daley Blind, Jurrien Timber, Mazraoui, and then Edson Alvarez and Lisandro Martinez. This is at 8 minutes 4 seconds into the game. But importantly, even if the ball gets recycled backwards, whether that's back to the goalkeeper or back to Jurrien Timber, Lisandro Martinez holds this position in the midfield. And I think this is something which is very, very important for Manchester United to do, because it worked so well for this Ajax side. Lisandro Martinez, 3 seconds later, is still playing in this midfield position. Even as the ball goes backwards to Jurrien Timber, they hold this position. They hold this 3-2 shape. Now what we can see is that for Jurrien Timber on the ball, they've drawn Borussia Dortmund onto them. He could go in here to Lisandro Martinez, or if he's really creative, he could go to Edson Alvarez. But importantly, there's two options here. If Lisandro Martinez was much deeper, it would be incredibly easy for this Borussia Dortmund player here To pick up Edson Alvarez, he could just stand on him because there's only one midfielder, and it would be incredibly difficult for Ajax to play the ball out from the back. I got there eventually. But importantly, because Lisandro Martinez held his midfield position, Ajax managed to get out from the back, and this was a key part of how they played. Now, I guess the question from here is, why doesn't he do the same with the current Manchester United side? Why doesn't he ask the team to play out from the back, and at least in some instances, have the centre-back move into midfield to create the double pivot? We know that he likes to push his two 8s nice and high, normally Bruno Fernandes and Scott McTominay. We know that he likes to push them high out of the way, but that means he only has one pivot, and that is often, at the moment, Sofian Amrabat. Why doesn't he push a centre-back in alongside him? Well, actually, at times he kind of does. Now, this is, of course, not the perfect situation to show this. This isn't an exact copy of the Ajax situation. However, what we can see is that Andre Onana is a little bit higher, and Harry Maguire is tempted here to move into more of a midfield position next to Sofian Amrabat. And that initially is a good thing. We can see here he is going to connect with Sofian Amrabat. He's going to move a little bit further forward. However, once the ball goes into Sofian Amrabat and the ball gets played wide, the intention of the Manchester United players is very different to the players at Ajax. What we can see is that Harry Maguire chooses to now drop off a little bit and drop back into more of a typical centre-back position. And at the same time, Scott McTominay is going to push further forward. What is the result of this? Sofian Amrabat is now by himself in the midfield. And we can see that laterally, he has a lot of ground to cover. So let's say Diogo Dalot was now to move the ball back to the goalkeeper. Let's say he went back to Onana. If we were to then look at Sofian Amrabat in the midfield, we can see that it's very, very easy for Bournemouth to pick him up and mark him, because Manchester United only have one pivot player. Because the centre-back initially tried to move into midfield, but then decided, let's drop back into centre-back. So, should Manchester United change that? Should we see a centre-back moving into midfield and staying there? Well, with Lisandro Martinez fit, yes please, let's do that. However, with Raphael Varane, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, would you really trust any of those three to invert into midfield on a regular basis, receive with their back to play and play from there? No. So realistically, Manchester United and Erik ten Hag cannot copy exactly what Ajax done. They can't regularly, at the moment, due to injury, invert a centre-back into midfield to create a double pivot. Certainly not keeping that midfield player there. So as a result, the centre-back moves forward but then eventually drops back. Amrabat has all his ground covered by himself. It's just too much work to do. So unfortunately it doesn't work. However, today we are putting a positive spin on things. So rather than just saying this isn't going to work, let's look at how Erik ten Hag can use a 3-2 principle shape, but with a slightly different player inverting. It's actually very simple and you've probably noticed it already. What if we do this in possession? Lindelof, left centre-back, move to the left. Right centre-back, Raphael Varane, move to the centre. Wan-Bissaka, right back, move to right centre-back. Now what we're going to do is ask Diogo Dalot, probably our best reliable fit left back at the moment, with Luke Shaw out through injury, to invert into midfield next to Sofian Amrabat. Now what this allows Erik ten Hag to do is keep his two high 8s. This can be Kobbie Mainoo, this can be Bruno Fernandes, this can be Scott McTominay, it can be Mason Mount when he's back, it can be Christian Eriksen, it doesn't really matter. But the idea is that you can still have these two high 8s. However, importantly, we now no longer have a solo pivot at the base. We've addressed the issue of a centre-back being uncomfortable in this area, because our centre-backs actually now have a really basic role, really. Just play as a normal centre-back would. Wan-Bissaka is dropping deep on the right-hand side, and we have created our back three. Dalot is inverting from fullback into this position, and we have a 3-2 shape. That solves a lot of problems. If we refer to the Ajax shape which we were talking about earlier, this 3-2 shape here, you can see that we've created something very, very similar. These two shapes are very similar to each other, and this would drastically improve United's ability to play out from the back. Now, yes, it's still not going to be optimal. Raphael Varane is not a brilliant ball-playing defender, neither is Wan-Bissaka, and Lindelof isn't the left-footed player which Erik ten Hag loves so much. However, you cannot tell me that this would not be a better approach than just constantly sending the ball long from goal kicks and looking to get on a second ball, or playing with a solo pivot who gets completely swarmed in the midfield. Surely, by inverting the fullback next to Sofian Amrabat, you would allow Manchester United to play out from the back on a much more regular basis, giving the team much more control. If you can play out from the back better, you're going to have more of the ball. And that's what we'll look at in the next video, how United can take this position and then move forward from there. Because if United play out from the back better, they will have more possession. If they have more possession, they will have less defending to do. But also, if you have more controlled possession, you can push players further forward. If you can push players further forward, you can then press better. You can counter press better, and you can also have a better rest defense shape. These are all things that we are going to be looking at in the next few videos. But I think the first thing which Erik ten Hag needs to do to provide the base for the rest of the team to excel is to move to this shape. To go to a bit of an Ajax principle of building with a 3-2 shape at the back, but we're putting a twist on it to suit this Manchester United side with the fullback moving into the midfield. It's a starting point which would allow Erik ten Hag to move the rest of the team forward and get back to an idea which we all loved. Erik ten Hag at Ajax playing good possession football, scoring goals. We'll come on to the scoring goals segment in the next video, but for today, I believe we are finished. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think this is a solution that Erik ten Hag could use? Do you think it's something that he will actually do? Do you think we have the personnel? Or do you have a better solution? Again, bear in mind, taking Ajax principles, but adjusting it a little bit to allow it to fit to this Manchester United squad. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are finished for today's video. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.